my name is Jason J. Rock Houston. This is Guitarist TV, and our very special guest today is new Tesla drummer, Steve Brown. Steve, you have been touring with the band for a while, but this is you can officially let the cat out of the bag. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know about officially, but I'm still here. How's that?
Yeah, well, I'll give the folks some background information on our little interview we're doing here. Initially, I had contacted Steve because he'd been playing with the band for a while, for over the last year or two. And Steve told me, I'd love to do an interview, but this time I can't really say. I got to wait till the band, gives the okay to come out with this. And then Brian had done an interview and he kind of let the cat out of the bag. So welcome to Tesla. What's it like to finally be an official member?
Well, I mean, there still hasn't been any announcement or anything about that, like officially. So, but I know Troy did an interview and he said, he didn't know whether he was going to come back or not. And,
there you go.
Brian, he was just kind of said the same thing. So, the status of it is, as we sit here and speak right now, is I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. How's that?
That's a good sign, right?
Yeah. So, and for this foreseeable future, I'm gonna be here, and until they go, hey, you know what? We've had enough of you. Get out.
Now I got to ask you, Steve, because I'm a longtime Dokken fan, and I got to ask,
all right,
how big of an influence was your big brother Mick on you becoming a drummer?
Huge, probably the biggest. I mean, up until I saw him play at the Cow Palace in like '82, there was a big New Year's Eve show there. It was Dio, Y&T, and Dokken.
What a
at
show!
The Cow Palace, on New Year's Eve, and Bill Graham was there too. It was just absolutely crazy, and that was the first time I'd seen my brother play for a bunch of years. I was like 4 when he left the house with George Lynch. So, so I, we hadn't really got to see what they were up to or anything. I was playing trumpet up until that point, and then I looked at that trumpet and I went, "Chicks don't dig this."
Yeah, the fact that he left the house when you were so young, you probably had no idea until you saw that show, just the level that your brother was playing on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between playing in the high school band and going to the Cow Palace and seeing 23,000 screaming girls or whatever. I was like, woohoo! I got to do this.
I gotta say, Mick. He's a real warrior in the sense that I understand part of the reason he had to leave Dokken was all his years of playing that he just really is physically unable to play those drums anymore.
Yeah, well, it's not so much the playing either, but it's the travel on top of it. He's a lot bigger guy than I am, and cramming into airline seats for long flights, and then they would play in Washington State on a Friday and somewhere on the East Coast on a Saturday, and so those two things you just can't do it forever. And he's been doing it for what, 50 years?
Yeah, the guy deserves a break,
this
right?
is like So I was kind of surprised. To be honest with you, I thought he would do it until he killed over on stage.
He was the one guy that hung with Don Dokken for the majority of Dokken.
When he was playing with Ted Nugent at the same time too, and trying to do both. He kind of got tired of that, and then when the Ted thing was done, he stuck it out with Don as much as he could. But then there just came a point where he just physically just couldn't do it anymore. And both of us have like the same type of thing. I have it worse. It's psoriatic arthritis. Oh, wow. And so it's an immune deficiency thing. And he kind of worked his way through it and kind of passed. But I know the kind of pain that I'm in a lot, So for him to continue on like that, kind of untreated too, because I take shots and I do this and that and try to stay ahead of it a little bit.
Sure.
And one thing is like, when you're sitting on a plane and then you got to get up and you're like, oh God. So, I wasn't surprised, I wasn't surprised that he had decided to do it. I just didn't think he was going to stick with it forever. And then, like a couple of years later, I told my wife, I go, hey, let's go down and see him and see what's going on down there,
Yeah.
and he was great, and he was in the best moods,
Sure,
and I mean,
sure.
the best possible mindset I've ever seen him in. And I thought, well, there you go. And soon after that, he sold every piece of drum gear, everything he owns, and all of his friends that I run into out here, they're just like, he really retired? I'm like, doesn't even have drums, doesn't even have drumsticks.
Amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at a guy like Phil Collins that he's been drumming all his life too, and I understand he suffers from carpal tunnel. He can't even play the drums anymore.
Well, yeah, I think his back was so bad that he had to sit in a chair the last tour.
At least he can still sing. He's got that golden voice, so there's that. But
right.
Who are some of your other heroes growing up, drum wise? That influenced you.
Well, I mean, of course, there's the John Bonham.
Of course,
everyone's going to say that, but I think the things that I saw along the way with my brother were the things that influenced me a lot. Like I'm really into Vinny Appice and all the Dio stuff, and because that was that age that I saw for the first time, the whole picture and the whole thing, it was guys like that. I'm like a Tubes fan, so I love Prairie Prince and Dokken was open for Loverboy one year when I went out to tour with them during the summertime, and it was on my 16th birthday, and they were playing with Loverboy, and so I got to see that drummer, Matt. Sorry, Matt, forgot your last name.
All right. Yeah.
But that had a big impact on me because I could actually see these guys up close and look at it and go like, okay, well, what's he doing and how's this work? And Mick would go, watch his foot, or, this or that, So, but I'm still a big Vinny Appice sucker, man. I watch his live stuff and I always tell we always have I do stuff with Jeff Pilson and George Lynch and Jeff and Vinny have done a lot of stuff over the years too. And I was telling Jeff how much I'm a geek for Vinny's stuff, and he thought that was pretty great.
So let me ask you, awesome. When you get together with Jeff and George, like you ever hear them tell like old stories about, Mick did this or
of course I do. I mean, anywhere I go, I get good stories. But the ones that I love the most are, over the years, they get so twisted out of control, from fans and stuff. And, and then they relay the story back to me. And I'm like, well, not only is that not true, but I was actually there. And when the story you were telling, one of the guys was like, actually worked for Dokken for a while. And he was telling this story about my brother. And I was like, well, no, I was there for that. And it didn't really happen that way. But yeah, they tell funny old stories.
And like you bring up, Vinny Appice and him and his brother, they got this drum wars thing that they do, and they're very competitive. Were you guys? I mean, you were a lot younger, but were you ever competitive? Or when you were starting out on drums, I was curious. Did you make a point of, okay, I'm not gonna be the next Mick Brown. I'm gonna be Steve Brown. I'm gonna have my own kind of sound. And
well, the problem with that is it's in the DNA.
Yeah.
And I really had no choice in how I was going to play, I don't think. And I still feel that way, no matter what I didn't sit down and learn Dokken records and learn how to play just like him. I was just learning how to get through songs and stuff like that. Sure. So, and he's 14 years older than I am. He was out of the house. He didn't even see me play drums until I was 25. And I was in a band opening for Dokken, and he thought that was just the funniest thing ever, which he still thinks it's the funniest thing ever now. Yeah. But there was no competitive, there was no back and forth or anything. We really didn't. I think we talk more about drums and music stuff now because he gets to see it from my perspective now, and he's really enjoying he would call me when Jeff and George and I were filming the video, and he'd be like, is it taking like 10 hours and you're still standing around? He thought that was the funniest thing ever. So he loves that. He's like, how's that 10-hour bus ride?
And you bring up, Vinny and Carmine. I always love those two guys, more than just their drumming talent, but when they get together, they have this comedy thing going. Like, no, it's a piece. No, it's Appice. And Carmine's like, well, I've been around longer, so I know better. They just have that connection, even though you know, and I just love those two guys when they do those drum war things.
Yeah, and you know, I had talked to Mick about that too one time. Like neither one of us were really doing much, you know. And I go, hey man, you know what do you think about maybe like doing a couple of fun shows and we'll play some Dawkins songs and we'll do the two drummer thing and we'll, you know, like those guys did. And he goes, Steve, who would ever come to see that with you and me?
Yeah, maybe. But you know,
I mean, good point.
Yeah, I mean, Carmine's very interesting. He's very, he's a very smart guy. I interviewed him once, and he was telling me the reason Tower Records years ago started having the guitarathon thing was he was a judge, and then he thought, okay, if they can do that for guitars, we should have a drumathon, and he's the one that started all that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, Carmine started a lot of things that we enjoy today. I mean, he was kind of the innovator of a lot of stuff, you know. And I mean, you know, I of course I mentioned Vinny, but you know, I mean, of course you got to mention Carmine and that too.
Fudge, yeah.
I mean, come on.
In fact, you know, I guess they're a little bit different in their issues. I heard Vinny in a couple of interviews over the years talking about he remembers when you know Carmine was out of the house, he was touring with Vanilla Fudge, seeing him on the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, that goes back a number of years. You know, you can just imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I know. But I mean, it's a fun. You know, we're really enjoying the time that both of us are at right now. You know, Mick's happy because he still gets to hear the dumb road stories and go, I'm glad I'm not there. But he loves to hear them anyway.
And I imagine he comes out and catches your shows, you know, when you're playing with Tesla, man.
No, he hasn't. Well, because we haven't played in Arizona. So
he doesn't leave Arizona too much.
He doesn't leave his house hardly at all.
I think
the only time he does that is to ride his chopper down to the bar where he's like the town mayor. He has a couple of drinks and then he's out.
Well, I think the man's earned the right to do that. Now let's talk about you being in Tesla. How exactly did that come about? Did you know some of the guys in Tesla or what?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been doing stuff with all of them for the last like 15 years probably.
Okay.
And you know, mainly it was stuff where you know, I was in Sacramento, they're all in Sacramento, and Troy happened to be in Nashville. And you know, there was little things along the way like you know, some benefits or you know, some shows here and there that it was just like it was not really worth his time, I guess, to be there. And so, you know, I would end up doing those. And then, you know, I played on Frank Hannett's solo records and Brian Wheat and I have done tons of recording at his studio when he had a studio in Sacramento. And, you know, every once in a while, Frank would call me and, you know, and I'd come up and record stuff here and there. But, you know, he's got a really great drummer, Kelly Smith, that's in the Frank Hannon band on the regular. So, but, you know, over time, and, you know, I gave Jeff Keith's son, Joe Bob, drum lessons. So we all saw each other a lot and we all knew each other. So I think it was kind of a lot more about that, having that instead connection. Of, you know, having that connection. And of course, Troy would call me every once in a while over the years if something was going to come up and he'd say, hey, I need you to come out, or I need you to do this if you had a family emergency, or, you know, things like that. So it was all kind of there already. And then, you know, Troy called and he said, hey, you know, I got some stuff that I want to do. And, you know, I think at first it was, you know, 2 weeks and then it was, and then it was the rest of the year. And so, you know, then the next year came along and I was like, well, am I going back out or how's this working? So, and you know, I had talked to him on his birthday and we did a lot of talking up until I came out, you know, and then, you know, it's kind of a trippy place to be in, you know, I'm here. And then, you know, I just haven't talked to him much since, but you know, I'm sure I will later on down the road when some smoke settles.
Well, what an interesting place to be. I mean,
whatever happens. I mean, you know, and my place in it is really to stay out of the way, you know. So anytime anything comes out, I'm like, you know, earmuffs. So I'm here to play drums and have fun and make sure everyone else has fun too, and that's the end of it, you know. I mean, it's great. It's great that you guys had that chemistry before you even joined the band, that friendship, because
then you join the band, you guys already know each other. You don't have to have that period of getting to know each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing, man. I mean, it's less about the actual playing than it is about the hang, you know, and so, you know, in every band, I'm sure, you know, there's individual personalities and everyone's got things that they have to do or whatever. And they pretty much figured that I'm easy. I never shut up, but
that's a good thing. Yeah.
I'm easy.
I mean, you hear about these bands that have been playing together for years, and they started out loving each other. Now they can't stand each other. They hate being in the same room. Could you imagine being a band like that?
Well, you know, ask my brother that question. He was in that band for how many years? 40 something years. Yes. He was in that band, and it was a lot of fun, boy. But you know, that again, you know, I learned a lot by watching him, in his situations and how he handled those things, and how he handled going to play with Ronnie Montrose and play with Ted Nugent and things like that. It's like, okay, well, how did you approach this, or how did you end up doing that? Now, you know, our experiences in music are vastly different. I spent a lot more time doing studio work with every band, you know, along the way, and he didn't have that experience. So, you know, I'm used to going in and playing with a different set of group of people almost every, you know, other day or whatever. There was a time when it was every day, and I was doing that, and, you know, playing in other bands, trying to tour at the same time too, and you know, just trying to keep going. So you know, he didn't have as much of that. I mean, he was in one band for a long time, and then you know, he broke up with George, and then later on in his life, he was like, okay, well, wow, I'm going to do this Montrose thing, and I can do that. And I bet it was just tons of fun for him to get outside the box a little bit, even though I took his place at Montrose right after that.
Wow. I didn't know that. What cool.
Wait, you didn't know that?
Definitely in the DNA. See, they're keeping it in the family. But and Steve, once you joined up and started touring regularly with Tesla, what was that like? I mean, like you said, you went from being a studio musician to being on the road. They were pretty, you know, regularly.
Well, it wasn't that I hadn't been on the road either. I mean, you know, I was an Oleander for a long time, and you know, although that was towards, you know, the end of that touring cycle for those guys, the Oleander guys. But you know, I was out with Ronnie Montrose for 3 years almost, I think. And so it, you know, I was remembering before the very first show, you know, we got together to kind of run through some things and some songs and stuff in Sacramento before we left. And then, I don't know, we were riding the bus to the show, and I kind of looked around and I thought, well, you know, this seems really natural because we all know each other so well. We all already have a camaraderie, you know, and so it was really, really easy, you know. It was hard for me on a personal thing, trying to get in the swing of the songs and the flow of the set and things like that. You know, I mean, it took a couple of days. Sure. And our second show with me playing was, you know, at this huge bike rally in Ocean City, Maryland. And it was just monstrous. And I was like, I remember calling my wife during the day going, oh man, there's no one here. And it's this huge place. And then I went out like 3 hours later to go on stage, and I went, where did all these people come from? It was absolutely insane.
Our people have arrived.
So it was kind of off and running right out of the gate. But again, you know, I had done so much stuff with the guys in and out of music and in and out of the studios and stuff like that, that it was kind of just a natural thing. And it still is, you know? Yeah,
I would think one thing Dave Rude would love about having you in the band is he's no longer a new guy.
I know. And I tell him that all the time. You know, I'm like, oh God, I'm the one that's going to get it now. And I do.
And you know, one thing as a Tesla fan all these years I really loved about the band was, you know, Tesla's a band you cannot pigeonhole. You guys are hard rock, you're metal, you're rock, you're all, I mean, the sad thing, a lot of people, when they think of Tesla, they think all there is science and love song, but there's so much more, you know? That's funny that you mentioned that. I think I was thinking that last night while we were in West Virginia playing last night, and I somewhere during the set, and I wish I could remember now that we're on the subject, but
I thought, wow, how did you, I'm thinking back to the first record and how, how different, a lot of those songs were. And, I was thinking like Frank with the acoustic intros on like a first record, and it seems to me from the outside perspective that they had a lot of room to explore.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's actually true or not, they probably go, no, they made us do that. I don't know.
I mean, like, to me, probably the heaviest album they ever put out was Into the Now, which was the last one they did with Tommy, kind of a comeback album. And
I don't know, Bust a Nut's pretty heavy though too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's a pretty big, huge rock record.
Yeah. I love it all. That's the thing. And see, Tesla's one of those bands, like they put out like a double covers album. Those are all great covers, but Tesla's Tesla's one of those bands that they got so much great original material. They don't need to cover anybody's material. They do something like that, just for fun. In fact, I remember going on the Reel to Reel tour when they put that out, and you could still buy records at that time out at these things called record stores. And I remember I went and saw the band live because I heard, okay, if you go see the band live, you'll get volume 2 or something, but you can go buy at the local Best Buy. You can buy volume 1. Thought,
is that what they were doing?
Yeah, and I thought, what a great way to market the album,
Well, yeah, I mean, really the not the, I don't want to say the comeback, but like the parts where they got swinging again and built it back up were based on hard work, man. I mean, those guys, they don't stop the work, they just plow on through it. And it's
I think they've been nonstop
obstacle or challenge.
Yeah. Since they got back together, I think they've been nonstop, and they've been going stronger. Never has really been, if they've come back, they've never really gone down. They just gone straight up, which is a good thing. And one of my all-time favorite songs, it wasn't a big hit, but they did release it as a single, was the song "Stir It Up" off.
Right.
That's a great little acoustic thing, but I always loved that song. And then
I mean, and then you go from stuff, from songs like that and like Edison's Medicine and all these different things, and and then you put Love Song in there, and like, how does this all come together? And yet sometimes it seems like it does seamlessly. And that's, that's probably a testament to really good songwriting, and or trial and error. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I was, of course I was a fan, and I saw these I got these records when they came out, and the really important one for me was Mechanical Resonance, and that was I was I think I was 16 when that came out, and I was learning how to play drums, and guess what was being played besides
Modern Day Cowboy,
besides Doc and Tooth and Nail, and what was the other one? Quiet Riot's Metal Health.
Yeah, there you go.
But I mean, that was certainly, I heard Modern Day Cowboy on the radio just like everyone else did, and I went, holy shit, I got to go get this, and sat and learned a lot of the songs, and it was a big thrill. Speaking of the second show, we did a Rock Me to the Top for the first time, and Frank was like, hey, he's like, hey, do you know that? And I was like, yeah, I do. It's one of my babes. Let's do it. And we did it that night. And like right in the middle of it, like I had this moment with myself where I was like, I was 17 or 16 in my parents' garage again, learning it. And then I looked up and I was like, wow, what are you guys doing here? So.
I mean, so what's that like for you, Steve? Because it's one thing, that you're friends with these guys beforehand, and you're in the band now, kind of, and you're up on stage. What's it like to go from being a fan of this band to actually the drummer in the band up on stage with these guys playing these songs that you grew up and loved so much when you're growing up?
Yeah, it comes in waves. It's kind of funny. Every once in a while I'll have like that aha moment, but for me it's kind of the natural progression of things. I have played with so many bands and done so many recordings and done off and on things. Fortunately for me, like none of the records that I played on in the 2000s ever went anywhere. But boy, were those budgets awesome when they were there. But every once in a while I'll look up, and it's usually moments where I'm watching like Frank do an intro or something, and then I'll forget kind of where I'm at. My drum tech will be like, "Hi,
Yeah.
hi, we're here. Are you going to start the song now?" And I'm like,
"Oh,
yeah. Sorry about that." Yeah. And it happens every once in a while. I get into the moment, and I'm like, all right, there's Frank.
Yeah. And I think another cool thing from what you told me today is the fact that you got a chance to, kind of talk to Troy before, and there's none of this stuff where there's bad blood between you guys. It's like, it's cool that you could be in a band and there's this good vibe among you guys.
Yeah, you look. I mean, everyone that you find a person that doesn't like Troy Lucetta. I mean, he's the nicest guy ever. And while we were talking on the phone, and he actually came up. I was playing a show in Sacramento, and he was in California still, and he came up and saw the show right before I left to come out. And we talked for a while. But one of the conversations that we had, and it was an important one for me to have, and I said, hey, look. In this conversation, I want to make sure that like how much you meant to me, in my playing and stuff. Because when Troy left the Eric Martin band to join Tesla, I was still in high school, and I fell in with the guys who were in the Eric Martin band.
Wow.
And so I started playing with them even then. So it was kind of this funny thing that I would end up following Troy around.
Tesla, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, what again? But we talked, and I just said, I don't think that like my history of being following your footsteps. It wasn't my brother's footsteps; it was his kind of.
Actually.
But I mean, and I hope that I hope that he heard that the way it was intended, because I sent him a lot of love. I mean, I think he's a great guy. And and I don't think there's any I don't think there's any bad feelings or anything like that. Look, if there is, I'm detached from them anyway, because I don't care whose side it is or whatever is going on. I'm over here to play drums for Tesla as long as they'll have me. And that's my job. My job is to like smile and laugh and try to get the guys to laugh and stay out of the way. I'll be over here. Hey, by the way, there's Canada right there. Can you see that?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Hey, Canada out the window.
Hey, Canada, we love you. But I mean, because I hear about all these other bands where, replacement guys come in and the original drummer's like, hey, don't forget, I'm the original guy. I'm the only one that can do it. I love that there's not that with you and Troy,
Yeah, I mean, I would always speak highly of
there you go.
him,
there you go.
And try to keep that message the way it is. Why wouldn't
I? Ask you, I know you guys recently played your Las Vegas residency, and you're going to go back in October. What was that like?
It was great. The shows were fantastic. They were all sold out. The people were great. They were there to party, and it was Las Vegas.
Was anything filmed for a possible future release, or
any what?
Did you guys film any of the shows, like maybe to put out one day? Or?
No, we didn't do that. We do have there is a live record coming out on Memorial Day, which is
cool.
in May.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
May, right?
So,
yeah, it's called Full Throttle Live, and we recorded that at Sturgis in South Dakota. And we're gonna have we recorded a new track, a studio track, while we were rehearsing for Vegas, and there's going to be a video we filmed a video for it, all like the blink of an eye. Yeah, we got a lot done in a week. Woo!
Well, I love that. A new live album featuring the great Steve Brown here, and got a new studio track. I love when bands do that. We'll give you a live album, but we'll throw in a new track as well.
What's funny is I had no idea about it until God, I don't even know what month we played in Sturgis, but well, I mean, it was over Bike Week or whatever that is there, and it was the place with all the bikes. But after we had played there, Brian had mentioned something about mixing some songs, and I go, "You're mixing songs?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we recorded in Sturgis." And I said, "We did."
Thanks for telling me.
This will tell you how much I actually know.
Yeah.
Besides the shows and riding the bus, that's it for me. You know what I mean?
Well, I think,
like, if you need me to know something,
it's a total rock and roll
to know
experience.
something, I'll be over here.
Total rock and roll experience, because when you get to hear the live album, it's not like we were recording a live album, so you're really on your game. It's kind of whatever it is, and it's totally live.
Yeah, and I mean, like nothing was. I don't think
rehearsed or anything.
Nothing was fixed, or no one went back into the studio to do any tracks or anything. So there it is, man. It is what it is. And I thought my first thought was, did I play okay that night?
Yeah, of course.
I played very well. But it's always funny that your perspective on that, or my perspective as it is I always think, oh my God, I played so terrible. I had a bad show. But it was just the way I felt, and then I go back and listen to it and I go, wow, it was all right. My wife and I sat in front of the TV the other night, and somehow we were watching YouTube, and then we saw some of the Vegas shows come up, and I was like, hey, leave those on for a minute, because I don't get to see what it looks like, I don't know. There's like, the big TV screen, the big screens in the background with all of the cowboy videos and all that stuff. I don't know that's going on.
Wow.
I'm just like, I go, wow, is that what's going on? Does that happen every time? And she's like,
we look good.
I go, no wonder Brian and Frank are always back by me, like, watching the screen. And I'm like, what are you guys looking at? And I'm like, oh yeah,
okay, I get it.
Back there, yeah. Woo!
Yeah. And so, Steve, I know, as you say, you're the last guy to know, but has there been, and the live album's coming out next month, we look forward to that. I can't wait to get that.
Yes. Full throttle live.
And let me ask you, has there been any talk at all about Tesla may do another studio album, or at this point there's no talk? Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, as far as I think, everyone's concerned, at this point,
why
it's probably, I mean, we're going to do singles and stuff like that. Will there be another one?
Who knows?
Anything could happen. I mean, that's another thing about me and this situation, everything. Like, look, I promised myself I would make the most out of this, because I mean, I could be on a flight home tomorrow, I mean, like, this could all end without me having an idea about it or not. It's just like, so, you have to make the best of it while the day, I'm not thinking about tomorrow yet. I got today.
Think about today. You getting ready? You just did a sound check, right? Are you getting ready to?
Yes. Yeah. No, we did it. We just did sound check, and we're in Niagara Falls, and and tonight's show's sold out. I think. I mean, God, the majority of them have been sold out, which is another testament to the
legacy of Tesla. Yeah.
My God, it's Tesla's, the same people like that come, in each town. There's like a group that everyone knows. It's wow. It's incredible to see that kind of fan base for a band that's been around for 38 years or
I've been
whatever. Let's just round it up to 40.
Yeah. I've been a Tesla fan myself since the very beginning. They're one band I never get sick of. I got to tell you, I love everything they do. Any chance I get to go see the band, I do. And so I think it's great that you're part of this Tesla thing now, Steve.
Wow. Having fun.
Yeah, that's what.
Where are you?
Long Beach, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the closest we came since I've been in the band is Irvine with Leonard Skinner.
Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. What a gig that must have been. Yeah.
We had so much fun with those guys. That was such a great experience with them. We really, I love it when you get to go out with a band, and like, our friends, Fastest Land Animal and Kurt Deimer are going to meet up with us Tuesday in Detroit. Actually, I think Kurt Deimer's not there yet, but anyway, those two bands, and it's so great when everyone gets along so great, and it becomes like this big roaming family, across the country. And it's like that's so fun. And it was so great right off the bat with those guys to get to hang out with them. And then, we took over, we had a whole hotel just for like the band and the crews in Irvine. And it was fantastic. It was just, we had such a great time.
Before I let you go, Steve, I want to ask you about, I thought it was pretty cool last year that, you know, after many years of kind of bad blood between Tommy and Brian, they met up on the Monsters of Rock, I think it was, and they made up. Wasn't how cool is that to see? Were you around for that?
I was elated. I was really happy. I was happy for Brian too. I mean, because and I only say that because I'm closer to Brian,
of course,
you know, and of course I've ran into Tommy over the years, and you know, when he was still in Tesla, that's how long it's been since I've seen him. But you know, I know that, you know, harboring bad blood, especially when you get older, it, you know, it tends to not matter as much.
You never know.
Those things
You never know.
Those things that piss you off. And I'm like, you can't go through your life hanging on to that. You're just dragging this extra weight around, and you know, and so for him to go and do that, and I saw that interview that day, you know, and I went, "Holy cow! I got to see what happens."
I heard him do an interview with Eddie Trunk, and he was telling Eddie, you know, he goes, I at one point I was so angry at the guy. He goes, I never thought I'd speak to him again, but it feels so good to get that off my, not have that.
Yes, I know. And as soon as I saw him after the cruise was over in the next show, I just looked at him. I was like, that felt pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
He's like,
well,
yeah.
Steve Brown, I enjoyed getting to know you. I wanted, when the live album comes out, maybe have you back on and talk about that.
Sure, man.
It was really great talking to you.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, and the interview we just did, I'm planning to post it probably in the next week or two. Once I have a date, I'll be sure to let you know, okay?
All right, no problem, man. I'll be out here somewhere.
Drumming on the Tesla tour. Keep it up, buddy.
All right, bud. Thanks, man.
Anytime.